If you've daydreamed about being a rugged eldritch bounty hunter in 1895 Louisiana hunting nightmarish creatures infesting the Bayou, first of all, why? And second of all, look no further than the incomparable Hunt Showdown. In this video, I review in 2023 this incredibly unique, atmospheric, and fun shooter that is now over 5 years old. As always, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe, as less than 7% of you have actually subscribed. Now let's grab our revolvers, some dynamite, and get a hunting. Despite being a relatively successful FPS from Crytek, a relatively well-known developer, I still see so much confusion about what Hunt Showdown actually is, and if it's worth playing now in 2023. The short answer to the latter is yes! Yes! Absolutely play this game. For the former question, to be honest, it's such a unique experience that it can be difficult to describe when you try and compare it to other FPS games. Put simply, it's a PvPvE bounty hunting game with some survival and some progression mechanics. It's an extraction shooter not unlike Escape from Tarkov, but with a more streamlined and simple economy and gear system. The primary game mode, Bounty Hunt, pits you and up to 2 teammates against the horrors of the Bayou and up to 12 other players in any given match. Using Hunt dollars, the money gained from looting or rewarded on successful extractions, you can purchase guns, equipment, and gear to take into the next match, aka raid, aka hunt. You can also use Hunt dollars to buy hunters, with higher tier hunters, those with passive traits or better gear, costing much more. However, once a hunter is dead, they are dead forever, so choose carefully. With your weapons and gear equipped, you can drop into the hunt. While there are many different types of NPC horrors and monsters roaming around the abandoned and decrepit towns, mines, and farms, only 1 or possibly 2 boss-type monsters will be your primary targets and main objective for the match. These bosses will be in randomized locations and must be killed and banished in order to get the bounty token, a unique item that is picked up and extracted with. Unlike a battle royale, which usually forces players together via some type of arbitrary and unexplained closing circle mechanic or gas, Hunt instead funnels players into boss areas pretty naturally. As you explore, you'll use Dark Sight, a unique vision mechanic that reviews clues to the boss's whereabouts, and this will narrow down and ultimately locate the boss's lair. So naturally, all players will most likely begin triangulating on the same locations and begin fighting each other. Each boss in Hunt is a powerful monster with unique abilities requiring different methods to take down, although generally a double-barreled shotgun to the face does the trick. Along the way, you will of course battle other monsters and other players, as there's really no incentive to work together in Hunt, with only one team realistically able to extract with the bounty token. As you successfully extract and survive, your hunter will gain experience and points to spend on traits, and will level, allowing you to continue with them into the next hunt, hence the progression system. Some traits cost more than others and contain a lot of utility, but they're not so powerful that you'll be at a massive disadvantage if you have less than someone else. A bullet to the face is pretty effective no matter who you are. That's a pretty simple breakdown, but trust me, this gameplay loop is insanely addicting, and everything in Hunt feels crafted with a vision and care that I really appreciate and enjoy. The other main mode is Quick Play, a solo-only experience that is much more like a traditional battle royale. In this mode, you drop in with only a basic starting weapon and have to scavenge and loot the rest of your gear. In this mode, there's no boss, but instead what is called a wellspring. The first player to locate 4 clues will begin absorbing the wellspring and will be marked invisible to everyone on the map. Player that survives with the wellspring by the end wins the round, so it's kind of just last person standing. This is honestly the most underrated battle royale experience in the market, but sometimes it can take a while to find a match of Quick Play, unfortunately, because it is extremely fun. The most notable and unique aspect of Hunt Showdown is of course its incredible atmosphere and setting. This is a setting you won't find in any other FPS game, and for me, the eldritch horrors of the Bayou add immensely to the experience. While I enjoy my militaristic and modern shooters like Battlefield, dropping into the swamps with a rusty axe or a revolver is such a unique experience that adds so much to the gameplay. Heavy fog, the terrifying nights, the screams and bone-chilling screeches of the monsters that surround you make Hunt an extremely intense and honestly terrifying game at times. I don't handle horror games well, but Hunt does such a good job of balancing horror with action that I really don't have much trouble jumping into its world, although it does help that of course I'm loaded with weapons. The layout of the map, the various obstacles, animals, and monsters in your way, it's more than just set dressing. It all ties heavily into how you approach and interact with the gameplay of Hunt. While the cawing of crows or neighing of dying horses adds to the atmosphere, it also has a lot of utility, warning you of approaching enemies and threats. These systems are powered by the straight up masterpiece that is Hunt Showdown's sound design. Hunt is legitimately one of the best sounding games I've ever played, and it's your most powerful tool as a hunter to understand where and when threats are approaching you. The game recommends you wear noise-canceling headphones, and I highly recommend this as well, as it transforms the game into one of the most immersive experiences on the market. I love the stylistic approach to the aesthetics, with even the hunters themselves being somewhat creepy and off-putting in their own right. Everything in Hunt has been crafted with care and purpose, and it all serves to unify this vision of a bleak, eerie, and dreary world. It's a world I love to get lost in and would love to see more about, whether from a single-player experience or expanded lore or potentially a sequel. I know for some players you see a more historical title with older, admittedly pretty crappy weapons and are off-put, but I highly recommend you try Hunt even if the setting doesn't seem as interesting to you initially. This leads me to the gameplay. Being based in the late 19th century, you can imagine the weapons and gadgets available are pretty unique among FPS games, heavily featuring revolvers, lever-action rifles, and shotguns, dynamite, and more steampunk-like unique weaponry. The gunfights and combat in Hunt are extremely unique, tense, and most importantly, fun. While combat is extremely deadly and you can be one-shot pretty easily, many gunfights in Hunt are extended engagements with you and your enemies playing deadly games of cat and mouse with slow rate of fire weapons and gadgets, moving to outflank and outsmart your enemies. This is far from a movement and twitch shooter, however quick and deadly aim is still critically important once you get into a firefight. That being said, it won't come down to just that, as positioning, stealth, and cunning will win you just as many gunfights as twitchy skills will as well. Getting the drop on an enemy or strategically forcing them into monsters or traps are powerful strategies, and each engagement within Hunt is a nail-biting and intense experience. I personally love how much the weapon selection changes the traditional FPS gameplay, with bolt or lever action rifles or single shot revolvers being your most common guns. This is not a game where you can just spray and pray and hope to land a lucky headshot. As a result, it just feels a lot more methodical and paced really well when compared to other games. And it also helps that the weapon selection makes you feel like an absolute badass cowboy, which is always a bonus in my book. Given how deadly the weapons can be, with a headshot almost guaranteeing a kill every time, pretty much every gun and weapon within Hunt Showdown is viable. There are very few what you would call meta weapons, but more the effective range and engagement you are taking at any given time. Close range shotguns can dominate, but will be helpless at mid to long ranges as you'd expect. I really love this aspect of Hunt, and while I definitely have my own preferred loadouts, I never feel completely punished using something different or experimenting around. Speaking of guns, don't be fooled in thinking the setting limits the number of weapons and gear you can have, as Hunt features a shockingly large arsenal. Double-barreled and lever-action shotguns, rifles, scoped rifles, a variety of revolvers, crossbows, bows, melee weapons, dynamite, traps, all with different variations including many different ammo types. There is a ton of variety in Hunt Showdown, and almost every player you run into will be running a different set of gear. This plus the large number of unique traits means you can craft your playstyle to be pretty much whatever you want, and keeps the gameplay feeling pretty fresh for me. I wanted to touch again on the enemy AI, or NPCs, present throughout the game world. While most monsters will easily be killed or one-shot, with some tougher ones requiring more tactical approaches or specific ways to dispatch them, the enemy AI isn't really meant to be a serious threat to the player, unless you're like me and get swarmed by those stupid dogs. The AI represent more of an obstacle to overcome without alerting others to your presence, or to be avoided during intense gunfights with other players. Even killing the simplest enemies will make some noise, and considering how critical sound and stealth is to the game, it can easily give away your position and allow other players to begin stalking you in turn. Scattering these AI obstacles throughout the map is a brilliant way to keep players on their toes and extremely aware of their surroundings, with other creatures like crows and dogs and horses that also give away player locations. This, again, coupled with amazing sound design that underpins all of the insane atmospheric design and tension and general creepiness of the game, brings the world to life. It's a richness and setting that isn't seen often in gaming, and especially not in a multiplayer focused first-person shooter like Hunt. In conclusion, if you haven't had the chance to dive into the swampy world of Hunt Showdown, I highly recommend you do so, even in 2023. Even if you're not a fan of horror games, it creates such intense and fun PvP opportunities that I personally know many others who can look past the gruesome exterior to find the gem of a game inside. Hunt luckily has been supported a lot by Crytek and is still supported, and despite most updates just being cosmetics or a new hunter, they still find a way to mix up the gameplay in new and interesting ways, such as introducing a roaming crocodile boss, wildfires, and more. I am personally very excited to see what may be next for Hunt Showdown, and maybe even a potential sequel. A world and setting of this caliber should just not be wasted. Let me know your thoughts on what is probably the most solid FPS game of 2023, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, a like and subscribe goes a long way to supporting the channel. Until next time.